You ever walk into a room and just feel the air turn, like everybody already picked their sides before you even open your mouth? That's what Fort Kessler felt like that morning, the sun just breaking through the Wyoming dust, when Sergeant Grace Mallory stood on the edge of that field sweat dripping down her neck, tank top stuck to her back, bruises on her arms like badges no one asked for. Some people collect medals, others just collect pain, you know what I mean? And in that moment, with the squad lined up, Private Wade Huxley grinned and let fly the kind of comment that makes you wonder if he was trying to get himself punched or just didn't know better. Nice bruises, princess. Didn't know Fort Kessler had spa days. The chuckles that followed weren't kind, just the kind that test how far they can go before someone finally bites back. But Grace didn't bite, she barely blinked. New transfer, only woman in Bravo squad in 2 years, rumors swirling like gnats. Some folks whispering she was a desk jockey, others hinting at injuries that never healed right, nobody really knowing the truth. Huxley kept poking, pushing, asking how many push-ups it takes to snap a wrist, like he was trying to fill the silence with noise. The rest of them watched, either amused or just waiting for the fireworks, because when you don't know someone, it's easy to fill the gaps with your own nonsense. What none of them got, not Huxley, not the one snickering in the back, was that Grace didn't come here looking for redemption or attention. She volunteered because there was a debt she carried, and it wasn't something you could see or understand unless you'd walk through fire and come out changed. Up on a small rise, General Thomas Barkley watched the whole thing, hands behind his back, poker face on, but you could feel his eyes tracking every move. He'd seen her kind before, folks who survived hell but never really left it behind. Still, he waited, letting the scene play out, because some lessons you don't teach with words. Grace just stood there, bruises and all, dust stuck to her skin, silent as stone. That kind of silence makes people nervous. The rumor mill in the barracks had already churned out every theory imaginable. But the truth? The truth was quieter, heavier. The scar under her, I caught the light. And if you looked close enough, you'd see it wasn't just a mark, it was a memory. Still, she stood tall, not out of pride, but something older call it stubbornness or call it survival. But it held her up when nothing else could. Then the general's voice cut through the morning, hard and sharp, call sign Widow 27. The whole field froze. Laughter died in throats, glances shot around, and Huxley looked like he'd swallowed a bug. You just ran your mouth at Widow 27, son. You could feel the ground shift. Even the wind seemed to hold still. A kid in the back, Keller from Arizona, let out a breath he didn't know he was holding, because Widow 27 wasn't just a name, it was a ghost story they told when the lights went out. A myth, not a person. Stories of a woman who disappeared off comms for 5 days and came back dragging her buddy through enemy fire. It couldn't be this woman, right? Not the one with blood on her collar and dust in her hair. Could it? General Barkley stepped closer, boots sinking into the dirt, fists clenched, not angry, just steady. You don't need to understand what it means, but you'd better damn well remember it. And that was that. Even the instructors in the back straightened up. Something shifted, a ripple of respect, the kind you can't fake. Barkley kept going, voice low but carrying. 4 years ago, recon unit dropped behind the lawn divide. 7 in, 3 out. Ambush day 2. Lost 2 before the sun came up. Another gone by sunrise. 1 vanished, never found. That left 3. You could hear the field breathe. 1 with shrapnel in his chest, another knocked cold by the blast, and the last shot through the thigh, ribs broken, no painkillers, no evac. 12 miles of snow and nothing but hope between them and survival. She carried the comms guy, dragged the wounded one on a sled made from a busted rifle. No backup, no air support, just grit. Grace's eyes didn't move, but you could tell she was somewhere else, maybe back in that frozen hell, crawling the last stretch with a man on her back, his voice in her ear, telling her not to stop even if he passed out. You know, you hear stories about heroism, but you don't think about what it costs. The ghost of that mission clung to her, even under the summer sun. You think she came back for glory? Barkley's eyes scanned the squad. She came back because not everyone who walks out of fire leaves the fire behind. Nobody could look her in the eye, because it wasn't a story anymore, it was a warning. Respect, real respect, doesn't come from applause. It comes from standing when you want to collapse, leading when you've got nothing left but scars and stubbornness. Now the silence was different, not isolation, but elevation. Grace stood there, still not saying a word, but suddenly she wasn't alone. Barkley paced in front of them, his voice softer, but every word heavy. You think command sent her here as some kind of charity case? She could have taken her discharge, gone home. Nobody would have blamed her. But she asked to come back. Not for paperwork, not to sit behind a desk. She asked for the hardest job we have. Instructor for you lot. A few of them, even the cocky ones, started to shift, because they realized this wasn't about a battered vet trying to hang on. It was about someone who chose to come back to make sure nobody else got left behind. Barkley's tone shifted, almost gentle. She came back because she remembers what happens when training fails. And you could see the realization dawn: leadership doesn't always wear stripes and carry a clipboard. Sometimes it limps into the room with bruised knuckles and a silent stare. When the field cleared, nobody cheered, nobody clapped. Huxley walked off, all the swagger and knocked out of him. Silence trailed him, louder than any taunt. That evening, the mess hall was quieter than usual. Grace ate alone, same as always, but this time the table filled up one by one, not with apologies, not with speeches, just presence. A couple recruits sat, then a few more, trays clattering, eyes flickering her way, not out of pity, not out of guilt, just recognition. Finally, one of the new kids, voice soft, leaned in and asked, "Why widow 27? Grace didn't look up, didn't change her face. "Because I've buried 26 of my team," she said, flat and steady. "I'm number 27. No one asked a second question. The silence that followed was thick, reverent, not awkward. And that's the thing nobody tells you about strength. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg for medals or applause. It just shows up every single day, bleeding in silence, training without praise, daring you to measure up. That night, nobody said thank you, but they didn't have to. They stayed. They listened. They learned what real respect sounds like: the sound of someone finally, quietly, not eating alone. So here's the question. And you tell me, Hat, would you have done if you were on that field? Would you have stood up, shut up, or just stared like everyone else? Where do you draw the line between respect and fear, leadership and legend? Drop your thoughts below, because in this world, sometimes the loudest lesson is learned in silence, and the hardest leaders are the ones you almost never see coming.